Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino, and we are back to talk about another one of our Survivor 49 tribes. Today we talk about the Kela tribe here with a man who went out to meet them in Fiji. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
Yes, Rob, we've reached September. New month, new tribe. I'm hungry, and I'm ready to say, get in my Kele!
Get in my Kele. Yes. Okay. Mike, thank you for bringing back, what is that? Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me?
The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Yes.
Classic. Listen,
Okay.
everything old is new again.
All right. And we won't be calling any of these people B words. That's like inglorious type, not like other B word. Anyway, so Mike, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's been, a long weekend. Get to sort of take some time to, be able to rest a bit before we jump into a month where a lot is occurring. We're going to be experiencing a lot of CBS reality TV,
Hmm.
both ending and beginning over the
Yeah.
course of the next month. And so now it's an opportunity. We just aired once again another 6 interviews with another tribe on Survivor 49, and you and me and a very well received whiteboard are getting together to be
Good.
able to figure out exactly what is going on with this blue tribe, who will live and who will dabba dee dabba die on blue.
Well done. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go through all 6 of these new interviews that we have dropped here on RHAP, and then, as Mike alluded, my whiteboard is back with all 6 of our tribe members. We'll try to figure out what the alliances are going to be, who's in, who's out, and we'll do all that here today. All right. So we have been dropping our tribe previews day by day here on RHAP. The podcasts have been coming out one at a time. We've now dropped 12 of those after this podcast today. 6 more will drop before Mike and I come back one more time to preview tribe number 3. Now, Mike, what color tribe is this? Blue,
This
you
is the
said.
blue tribe, yes.
Got it. Okay. Anything you want to set up about this group before we talk about them one by one?
What is going to be very interesting about this group is that we spoke last time about the Uli tribe, the red tribe kind of being the vibe tribe. Maybe it was just sort of, again, the way that Shannon kind of spoke about her own perception of the game that led with that mentality. I do feel like, though, if this particular tribe gets off on the right foot, like this might be the vibe tribe, because this is a very positive group of 6, I would say. We'll get into this with my interviews, which of course you can check out if you haven't already. But I feel like a good amount of these people have these really jovial personalities, have expressed that they want to specifically bring a lot of that fun vibes. Jam Jam was mentioned a lot amongst these 6 people in particular. So I'll be intrigued to see how well that gels once they actually hit the beach. And hopefully, if they start hitting a losing streak, that positivity might go out the window immediately.
Yeah, I think that this is a tribe where things could go really either way. And it's interesting that you frame it that way, because I had not been thinking about them as a tribe, that maybe there could be such great chemistry that they are more than the sum of their parts. But I think that there's also a risk here that this could also be the hot mess tribe.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that, as we saw in Survivor 47, these things are a bit more balanced. I mean, we'll certainly get into it with Jake, who, as we mentioned before, as these people mentioned many of times in my interviews, is the physically strongest person in, I would say, this entire cast. So that could certainly help them in certain aspects of the challenges. You can't judge a puzzler by their cover, by, the shape on the box, I should say. But like, I don't know if any people on this tribe particularly struck me as like, the people that would be the best at that aspect of the challenges. So, yeah, I mean, we could talk about this more, I think, when we experience Hina,
Yeah.
too. I do think this is a very well-balanced group of 3 tribes, but this could also be from an interpersonal perspective. If there's too many positive cooks in the kitchen, Rob, how's that broth going to taste?
Okay. All right. Let's find out. And let's bring in, okay, person number 1 that we're going to talk about. Let's bring in Alex.
Yes, so let's get into Alex. So, for those of you that do not know, Alex hails from Washington, D.C. He is 27 years old, originally from Evanston, Illinois. And Alex is a political comms director for a member of Congress. And as he talks about in my interview, he is used to living a bit with imposter syndrome, trying to sort of figure things out on the go, considering that he ends up getting promoted to this job at a very, unnaturally young age in that type of situation. And he had to only not learn how to figure things out on the fly, but also how to handle a situation where clearly he was the odd man out.
Yeah. I really enjoyed hearing from Alex. I thought that he was the person that I thought that I kind of connected with the most in hearing his interviews. I think he just is very charismatic, Alex. I think that he could be in the center of a lot of things.
Yeah, so I mean, Alex disclosed to me that he is not going to be public at all about his work in politics. He says, I think he's going to be like just a public affairs associate, which certainly has some connections. As he says, it's essentially the same job. It just doesn't have, the connotation of Congress to it. And I think even if he did have that upfront political association, like, I think the way he comes across does not seem inauthentic whatsoever. Like, he talks to me about the fact that, yeah, I'm purposely smiling a lot at Ponderosa to give off a good vibe. But like, I think Alex is just kind of a good vibes guy. Like, I think he is very naturally smiley, very naturally positive. Now, granted, he does love, a bitch sesh or two. He loves to gossip. So not
Who
to say that
doesn't?
exactly. He's one of us. But I do think that the I feel like one of the understandable reasons why he wouldn't disclose his truthful career is the fact that there is this connotation of like, the used car salesman, you're smiling at me, shaking my hand, but what's behind the eyes? What deceit is coming your way? What's your ulterior motive? But I don't think Alex even presents that, even if you know what he does for a living.
Yeah, he just has an easygoing charm about him. It doesn't seem like that he is trying very hard, and I think that that's something that's going to suit him well in the game. I don't know if he's somebody that people felt like that they were suspicious of, or he didn't have it like in a Caleb type level where
Hmm.
people like, I have to watch out for this person. He was one of many people that we've heard reference Sam Fallon in
Yeah.
the Survivor 49 preseason. And I think that he shares that ability that Sam has, except in Sam, it comes in a little bit more of a physically imposing package, which might have maybe made people more wary of him.
Yeah, I mean, Alex sort of touts that as well. I mean, he explicitly says he's the glue guy. Specifically, was in high school, right, where he says he was class president and he was sort of like basically having connection points with everyone at the respective Mean Girls tables. I mean, I'm always intrigued, Rob, with when I ask about these life experiences, people pull specifically from high school. I feel like we experience this a lot with JD as sort of
Mhm.
like a larger symbol of like, okay, maybe you haven't seen a lot of the outside world if what you're saying will help you in Survivors, like your direct high school experience. But I follow the logic that Alex was taking, and not to say that like he obviously doesn't have a lot of immediate experience in the world of politics and especially in the world of communications, right? Where he has to, on a daily basis, be able to take, any sort of situation that has been thrown his way and massage it in a way that can be packaged positively for, the person that he represents. Now, in this case, it might be himself he's representing or an alliance, but I feel like it's a very one-to-one skill set.
It's interesting that he comes from the world of politics. I feel like that we have not really, I guess maybe we talked about this slightly with John Lovett when he
Right.
played back in Sam's tribe in Survivor 47, where there really has not been a lot of overlap in people coming from the world of politics into Survivor. A little bit of people from
I was gonna
Survivor
say more the
getting into it.
opposite.
Yeah, but right? That
Yeah, I'm trying to think like directly. I can't think of many people that came, especially from the level that Alex has. I mean, again, you mentioned Alex himself mentioned someone like Yule who ends up working in the White House following his time
Mhm.
on Survivor. But
And Mariah was in city government, but I don't think
yeah,
anybody has really come from like the
Capitol Hill.
real, like really like in it type of like political environment. And it'll be interesting to see how much that prepares you for the world of Survivor.
Now, what's also interesting is that Alex talks about in his CBS video that not only did his boss, his congressperson, send him off, for 26 days, say good luck. She also says, hope you come home with a wife. And as we've expressed in our cast preview, Rob, I wouldn't say Alex is thirsty, but like, his mouth's a little dry, maybe in a manner of speaking. He says that, like, if a cute girl tells me to do something, I just might do it.
Yeah. I hope you come home with a wife is a lot of pressure.
I mean, very, very much so, especially for Survivor. And I do think, going back to the water analogy, might be a bit of a dry well for Alex here. I mean, even looking at the women in his immediate tribe, Annie is married. Nicole has a partner, and I don't know if she'll do a JoJo Siwa situation.
Hmm.
Sophie recently engaged.
Yeah.
So I do not know if Alex is going to. He'll find, I think, hopefully many connections, but maybe not a love connection this
Okay.
season.
All right. Well, that might be something for down the road. But no, I feel like that Alex is somebody who I could see being set up well here.
I do. I think the downside that I would see is that Alex has very, very much expressed to me in my interview that, like, he wants to play hard. He says that, look, I got picked. People didn't. I want to make sure that I don't sit on my duff for 26 days. I want to put in the work. And I could see him do that and work really well at that for a while. I could see a situation where it gets to a point in the game where everyone's like, everyone loves Alex. Look what he's been able to do. Look at what he's been able to manufacture, all the deals he's made. We've got to take him out eventually. And so Alex, talked about some people that he was vibing with that were on his tribe. Hopefully he'll be able to utilize, those shields so that he serves as their constituent in the end game and they get to vote for him. But I could see a possible universe where this guy suddenly becomes, the big fish that
How about
needs to get
this?
taken care of.
Third survivor, Alex. Is that right?
Yeah, I
Alex Bell, of
mhm.
course,
And
that I
Alex
know well.
Angarita.
Alex Angarita. And then we had Alec Merlino, but
Mhm.
not, I don't believe another Alex.
Yeah, so this is the first time in 10 seasons. Every 10 seasons we get an Alex.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So there you go. There's Alex Moore. We'll place him in with the rest of the tribe as we
Yeah,
begin to talk about some more folks.
and I'll just quickly go through because I know sometimes Rob, you like to ask about these identifiers as to
Hmm.
who he was talking positively and
Oh yeah.
negatively about. So he did talk positively about Christina, which again, not on his tribe, could be a link up at the merge. Someone that is very much on his tribe, Jake, calls him Snooky because he has that Jersey Shore look to him. I don't know if Alex really watches Jersey Shore because I feel like DJ Pauly D was right there, but I like the
Hmm.
Snooky nickname. I always love a nickname in these things. And he was
A Snook name.
negative in particular on Nate and Jason. Nate, he just said, he's trying to smile, give everyone a positive vibe. He was not getting the same thing back from Nate. Nate was very serious, wasn't smiling. And Jason has his head down in his video game the entire time they were there. Now, we'll get to Jason's interview. There is a good reason as to why he's focused specifically on his Game Boy, but Alex is focused on the game, boy.
Yeah. All right. We will have such a great tease for finding out more about that. Thank you for breaking that down. Sometimes the people you're interviewing are so like with the initials, and it's like, all right, I didn't have like a cheat sheet out while I was
Mm-hmm.
doing this, so it is very hard to handle in a lot of cases of like who they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, we'll get into this actually down the line with this tribe. There might be some identifiers that even I'm a little confused by when they're like, here's a shorter woman with brown hair whose name begins with S. It's like, okay, well, great. You might as well have just told me someone on the cast of Survivor 49 because that's not narrowing the field any further.
Hmm.
But yeah, it also helps when I'm on the island with them so I could ask them, like, what were they wearing? That's how I was able to identify Jason. So I'm trying my best to hopefully try to
Yeah.
align with who might be aligned.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, there's a guy, like I call him Jason Sudeikis,
Yeah.
okay? That he's always like going and reading a book. Like, okay, well, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
Classic Sudeikis.
Right. Let's go to our next person here. It's gonna be Kimberly Annie Davis from Trashy Annie.
Yes, from Trashy Annie herself, also from Run Lab, and that is Annie's big stories that she has led these dual lives. Rob, by day, she's a mild-mannered CEO of a running biometrics company,
Hmm.
fueling her passion for fitness and endurance. But once the sun sets, out comes a pink wig, and Trashy Annie comes to town. So Annie is
Yeah.
49 years old, originally from Portland, currently lives in Austin.
Okay, now do we get a sense from Annie which Annie is playing Survivor? Is it the musician or is it the CEO?
It's definitely the musician. She said that that is going to be the only career that she tells everybody else. She's not going to say that I have a master's and a doctorate, that I run my own business. She says, both in my interview and in her CBS video, that on a daily basis, she wears a necklace that has the word boss on it. She's left it at home. Tony Danza, don't worry, she's not the boss. So she's very much going to.
Annie, where's that necklace I gave you?
But Annie is very much going to present as musician forward of like, hey, I'm just a musician. She is going to be, forthcoming about her story. And Annie's life story is incredibly unique in that, again, she has these two very separate lives, both of which she came into in like the past 20 years. She taught herself how to swim in her 20s. And then she was like, yeah, I guess I'll do a triathlon. I should probably start learning how to run. Okay, I injured myself doing it. What if I founded a company that helped train runners to run correctly? Oh, it's COVID. I have some downtime. I'm going to learn the drums. I'm also going to learn every other instrument. Okay, I'm going to start a band.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
God,
she did have the background that she was a trumpet player and went to school on a trumpet scholarship. I'm sure that the collab with Coach is coming.
Oh, I cannot wait for the two of them duetting on Flight of the Bumblebee coming to Instagram. The winner of Survivor 49 and 50 together. It'd be a match made in heaven. But yeah, I mean, Annie's story is really, I think, indicative of the fact that she is somebody who can kind of put her money where her mouth is. If she puts her mind to this idea of like, I'm going to try to do something, she is going to put every ounce of effort into it to make sure it happens. To quote a player we talked about last week, Rob, she is the definition of dream big, dream bigger, in that she just wakes up one day and says, I'm going to go find an idol. You better believe she is scouring every speck of dirt in that jungle to see if she can find one.
I really don't know how Annie fits into this puzzle here in terms of, is she somebody that people want to build around, or does she have trouble fitting in?
It's a really good question because I loved talking with Annie. I think she was such a fun personality. What's really intriguing to me is that I know in the comments of my interview with Annie, there were a couple people comparing her to Sue. And I think that,
May.
yes, Sue May. What can you do, May? I do think that makes sense considering that, again, these players have just seen Survivor 47, that, this is the oldest woman on the season. Annie has very much expressed that she is not going to necessarily want to be that motherly figure. She is kind of more of a kid at heart. The entire idea behind the Trashy Annie band name is the fact that some troll commented like, why are you wearing outfits that are much younger than you? And so I think she embraces a very youthful persona. Yeah. But I do think that what's going to endear her, I think, to the tribe is that she will probably have one of the best work ethics here. And I think, again, she is very tireless. She is someone who can probably has like a time turner and works 30 hours a day inhumanly, considering all that she gets to do. So I do not think she's going to sit on her duff when she hits that camp.
Yeah, it's an interesting profile because now Annie, that she's not a mom, correct?
She's a stepmom.
A stepmom. Okay. But I don't get the sense that she's going to come out here and be motherly in terms of like how she's like.
She might be mother to the fandom.
She might be mother, but so it's interesting where a lot of times like the mom is expected, or the woman, the elder later days ends up, okay, a mom to the younger people. Look at Julie in Survivor 46, or even like Sue connected with Caroline of like, okay, she reminds me of my daughter. So it's unusual to get that person to come in and, how do they connect with everybody? But the fact that she seems so youthful and is around, something that I think keeps you young, like rock music. Yeah. And I think she has a good chance to be able to get in with the younger crowd.
Yes, the famously young genre of rock, the Rolling Stones, just hugely indicative of that youthful energy. Yeah, I mean, she told me in her interview, right, that like her bandmates are, half her age or, 2/3 her age, and she gets along with them fine. I mean, Annie also, again, has a very different visual aesthetic from Sue or a lot of these other older women that have been on the show. She has the pink hair that you see in this photo. She has the glitter eyeshadow that I can confirm she wore through the first day of the game. I can imagine that when people come in for Survivor 50 and they use the same camps, there's going to be glitter smeared all over that camp, whichever tribe goes there, because that stuff is going to linger, and hopefully Annie will as well. But I do agree with you that I think there could be certainly a shift where, if she has more of an offbeat persona and a look to her, that even if she is a hard worker, it could put her on the outs from a social perspective. I waver back and forth as to like the physical aspects of the game. I think first off, if Annie gets to the post merge, she is going to be an absolute monster in these individual challenges, especially the ones that are all about like holding up your own weight, maintaining that balance. I mean, again, this is a woman who does Ironmans for fun. Maybe she could relate to Nate more about that. But she like did she did an entire mountain hike like with a rock in her shoe. She's so passionate about mountain climbing that she bashed the cast of the summit. And
that's true.
RIP. And so I think that like she is someone who could subsist in the elements better than some of her tribe mates. But I worry that like she's got a runner's body, which does not have a lot of fat on, not a lot of reserves, that if and when you're going without rice for 2 weeks, how much can she sort of work, how much can she sort of bank on, once the elements really incorporate themselves?
Yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't really thinking of her as potentially an asset in some of the challenges, although early on in the game, a lot of the strength-based challenges are really what's the important part of before you get to the puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that, if there's someone who has this individual sense of grit, I think Annie might be the best representation of it, considering this life that she has cobbled together from, as she talked about, a really tough background, from like scrounging for, cans to being able to put on the cans and make some award-winning music. It is quite a life. And to go talk about, again, some of the people that she was having good vibes on, I believe from the description she gave, she was positive on both Sophie's, one of which is on her tribe. She was also positive on MC because she sort of clocked the fact that like she has this runner's type. We'll talk about MC next week, but she is a former track star. And she was, I wouldn't say negative on Jake. She was more so clocking like, this guy is, winking at people, like being a little flirty. He's going to think broy. He thinks he's going to have everyone wrapped around his finger. I can't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I can't throw him very far.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah. And also, people, no matter how far Annie goes, check out Trashy Annie. It's a fun, fantastic time. Again, if you're into some rock music, and I know you are, if you're a big Ben Katzman listener, we've got someone else to add to the band. I think I want to amend what I talked about, I believe, in the cast preview, that Annie is the lead singer of Trashy Annie. She's also a guitar player. She writes all of their music too. And so let's see the song she pens about Survivor. Hopefully it's a power ballad towards the end of it.
Okay, Mike, who's next after Annie?
Well, we mentioned him a couple of times and we'll keep on doing so. We call him the Hulk, Mr. Beefcake, whatever you want to assign to him. Snooki has arrived. We're talking about Jake Latimer.
Okay. Jake is one of the Jeremiah. Is he a Canadian also?
Yeah, so we're going back to back with our neighbors to the north here. But Jake is 36 years old, originally from Regina, Saskatchewan, currently resides in St. Albert, Alberta. But one of the big parts of Jake's story is that he sort of has a Canadian sandwich, if you will, Rob, a Canadian bacon sandwich, in that he grew up in Canada. At 18, went to Australia to play hockey there, got injured, fell in love, and then went back to Canada, which is where he currently resides as a correctional officer.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of like deep family connections here, where he talks about that he is on the show because he wants his dad to be able to see him play Survivor. His dad is losing his eyesight. He also was... him and his wife are expecting a baby that he's going to miss the birth of. So he's got a lot going on, Jake.
Yeah, there's a lot weighing on his mind. And I think, what Jake communicated to me it's pretty much how he's going to be on the beach. I will not disclose what personal information he was upfront about because I have not seen the edit of the first episode, but I don't think there are specifically anything that he's going to necessarily keep a secret. This is a guy who said in my interview, right? Like, I've been me for 30 plus years, so I'm just gonna keep being me on the beach. And this is the guy who is sort of a holdover from Survivor 48. 49 feels like a very different cast than 48 for many reasons, but I think between the physical build and especially, Rob, this motto of honesty and loyalty and integrity to your sense of self, Jake very much wants to represent that this season.
Okay. So Jake is such an interesting figure here in this tribe. Who did he say he was vibing with?
So he specifically said he was vibing with Alex. He said that, Alex's preseason work kind of paid off for him here, and that he's like, this guy's smiling at me. I like to smile as well. Smiling's my favorite. I feel like we could work together. And then he didn't typify another person, but he said specifically he wants to sort of like look for a younger woman to be kind of a big brother to. I mean, something else about Jake is like, Jake is an incredibly nurturing individual. He became a correctional officer partially because of, the monetary stuff, but also because he wants to help sort of rehabilitate, those that have lived troubled lives in the past. He volunteers at the Special Olympics on the side. Like, this is a man who clearly wears his heart on his tattooed sleeve. And so I think, this is a guy who very much saw himself in Joe from last season. He mentioned him many times in my interview, in his bio. And I should mention as well that the cast of Survivor 49, from a timeline perspective, they did not see all of Survivor 48. The last episode they saw was the episode after the merge, which was the Say and Cedric double boot. I think this is going to be very interesting, Rob, because I think as we start sort of moving past, the shadow of Survivor 48, and we start to think about, okay, how is this season going to reflect upon what happens in future seasons? I think 51 will probably be more of the guinea pig here of like, okay, now will people turn strictly against the honesty and loyalty stuff, considering how much it dictated the end game of 48? 49 doesn't know how the season ended. They kind of end up ending the season before we really start to see the strong five or strong six take over as an alliance and really run that game to the end. So on paper, you could say, like, if Jake's coming forward with a strategy, oh, we got to get rid of him because look at what, Joe and Eva and all of them were able to do. But he's able to kind of live in this vagueness of like, well, we don't know how far that strategy carried forward. We don't know how Joe did. And so Jake can't be directly compared to him in terms of this big endgame threat.
Okay. And it's not the same sort of setup where, that there were these bigger guys they were able to all find each other, like in this season of Survivor 49, where I'm not sure who were the big guys that he was sort of eyeing.
I mean, yeah, like he said that Alex was kind of a big guy. Nate, we talked about this last time, probably has like the largest frame to him. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, but Nate doesn't seem smiley based off of what we're hearing from other people.
It was just mainly Alex. But I do agree that I think this is not. I will say I think Jake is going to make it far. I think that as we get into the tribe, I think Jake is going to be the hub of a lot of things. Maybe not by his own doing. I think so many people get along with Jake, and Jake will be seen as one of the biggest assets for this tribe, especially if they're not doing well. That I think he could be one of the most locked in, safe people. I do not think they will let him near this end game. I think that between the physical presence he possesses, to your point, the fact that it's not this new alliance of like athletes that would need to get taken down, and the fact that, again, if he is not going to withhold any sort of stuff about what's going on back home, listen, I know that, like, Joe and Eva and Kyle as well, like, all had stories that they were very upfront about and went to the end, no matter what. But, like, that is a type of story that 99 out of 100 people would not want to sit next to in the final three.
It's interesting to come into Survivor as one of the bigger guys because it really is just, you are so much the main attraction in terms of how everybody else is thinking about you. Everybody else has a strategy of, oh, I'm going to like link up with the other big guy, or I'm going to target the big guy, or I'm going to hide behind the big guy. You know, that everybody is just like, I don't know if everybody has like a strategy of how are we going to deal with Annie?
Yeah, it's very true. But I think what's going to help Jake is the fact that, as he espoused to me and as was clocked by a couple people, like he kind of has, as he mentions, the D-bag look to him, right? Where like he is tan, he is muscly, he's got the tattoos. But I think we've talked about this with previous preseasons, Rob, that they're like, is this initial shield that can almost get put up by being unsuspecting and being like, hey, you thought that I was just this giant asshole, but actually I'm from Canada and my wife's due with our first child, and I'm doing this so my dad can watch me one last time before he loses his eyesight. And you're like, I was so wrong about you. Oh my God, you're a teddy bear. I want to work with you. And I do think that's what is going to help Jake endear himself to a lot of people early on. Not to mention that he also said he was generally looking for people who are really close to their families. And so I think this is somebody, again, who is going to be very upfront about his emotions and about his story. And I think early on, that's really going to help him get in with people that maybe thought something else different about him. On the other hand, it might also really work against him when you get to a point of the game when you're like, we are not letting Jake get anywhere near this net, you know, or else he's going to score on us immediately.
Okay. Anything else about Jake?
I'm so glad you asked, Rob, because this is not Jake's first appearance on reality television.
Okay.
Jake mentions this in his CBS video that when he was down under playing, you know, hockey. And I should also mention, Jake feels like a very Australian Survivor coded casting choice too, right? Between the physicality, between sort of that mateship vibe, even if that is like old school Australian Survivor, he does feel like someone that they would pick up to put, you know, in that typical setting. But Jake got injured a couple times, unfortunately prematurely ended his hockey career, but he was biding his time in a new continent. And so Jake decided to join an all-male review.
Okay.
And that all-male review appeared on an episode of Australia's Got Talent.
Yes. Is it the Thunder from Down Under?
Well, I have the video, Rob.
Okay.
Like
all right.
watch.
Don't get us
It's SFW. It's SFW. SFW.
Okay.
All right. We'll see. We'll see how strict Australia's copyright law is here. But here is Jake auditioning for Australia's Got Talent.
Okay.
We are Sydney's Hot Shots. We're an all-male touring review show.
Jake's on the right.
We're going to take all this off.
I can't wait. Thank you, Jesus.
So if you're listening to the podcast, we're watching the judges look on at the Sydney's Hot Shots. Doing gyrating on the stage.
A lot. Focus on the packages.
Yep.
They all have some idol stuff in there.
Yes, you're through to the next
And they made it through to the next round, and you'll see that Jake is going to hop up on the table and kiss one of the judges on the cheek. So listen, Rob, if there was ever a time to bring back the Meke challenge, I think Jake could be an absolute shoo-in to win it.
All right, so he can work well in groups.
Exactly, but
He's
he can shine individually.
So, all right, can perform under pressure.
I mean, I hope that nobody saw this video before going out there, or they'd have to pull an Alan Ball and ask, Jake, you've got an idol somewhere, right? Just to make sure.
There you go. There's Jake.
There is Jake and the snake.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, who comes after Jake?
Well, we go from the snake to the bullfrog, as we're talking about Jeremiah Ing. Jeremiah is our other Canadian on this season. He's 39 years old, originally from Windsor, Ontario. He talked about coming from a very blue-collar type of town, being a fish out of water there, found his pond in Toronto, and he is a global events manager, though he previously worked for over a decade in fashion before he said, I'm looking for a man in finance, and he made his way over there.
Okay. So Jeremiah comes in and, you wonder, is there some connective tissue with Jake, who you would think that maybe otherwise wouldn't necessarily have a lot in common, but they're the Canadians.
That's the thing, is that one of the things that Jeremiah expressed to me was that he was really negative on the quote unquote bros, that all these athletic guys were like vibing with each other. And he's like trying to play the metagame of like, come on, they're clearly going to split everyone up. Like, you guys aren't going to work together. Let's not make this another Q situation. And so I do think that honestly, it could be as simple as the two of them saying, we're the only two Canadians on this season. That could make them the tightest two on this entire tribe.
Yeah, you would think otherwise. I was more worried about Jeremiah potentially. Could he be the first person out of this tribe?
I mean, there's still a chance to it. And not to say that Jeremiah isn't resilient. You know, this is a guy who is very well traveled. He's been to several continents. But he also admits that, like, the way he travels is a bit of a posh White Lotus style to him. We talked about this a bit on the kickoff show, Rob, but now that you've formally heard from Jeremiah proper, what have you made about his cover story? That with the exception of his father, he has told everyone in his life, including his mother, that he was going to go climb Mount Everest instead of play.
Yeah, it's a pretty badass cover story. One that I think could leave people like less impressed, where they thought like, "Whoa, we thought you were doing something cool. Oh, you just went on Survivor."
Now, to be fair, we did put out the question as to, you know, who have there been more people who have competed on Survivor versus climb Mount Everest? About 10 times more people have climbed Mount Everest than competed on American Survivor. So to be fair, Jeremiah is in much more of an exclusive club. Any Joe Schmo can climb Mount Everest. It takes a certain special person to be on Survivor.
Yeah. So it's an ambitious cover story for sure.
Jeremiah gives a lot of Ashley vibe from Big Brother, that he also wants to be this Elle Woods type that is very unsuspecting, you know, giggly on the surface, but underneath he'll get the last laugh in a manner of speaking. Luckily, no showers on the island, so he could cause social strife there. I mean, again, Jeremiah has such positive vibes to him, just like the way he speaks, the energy he has. You could tell that if this is a guy who maybe doesn't feel like he can provide in certain ways compared to other people on his tribe, he can really be like one of the sources of entertainment. The issue is that he is on a tribe with multiple people who want to be the sources of entertainment.
Yeah. And then he has a harrowing tale of how he got hit by a car.
So let's talk about this. Yes. So this was from Dalton Ross. He likes to put out, you know, these sort of like almost like compilation pieces of like, here's how everyone from the season responded to this particular question. And, you know, the question was, why will you win Survivor? And Jeremiah, we should say, Jeremiah is very much, I would say he's like fairly spiritual. He's very much into astrology. He says that he wants to be the first male Taurus to win Survivor.
Wow.
He says that he's looking for a Gemini to vibe with. Unfortunately, I did check that Survivor Instagram post that lists everyone's signs. There is no Gemini on this season, so he will not be able to find his proverbial twin in the game. But Jeremiah said that on his way to the airport to play Survivor / climb Mount Everest, he got, I wouldn't say maybe hit by a car. Maybe it was just a minor abrasion, considering that, like, he looked fine. And look, we were dealing with enough situations in the pregame, okay? Like, though they couldn't afford having Jeremiah in traction. Did not come out and play.
Frankly, we don't have any alternates left.
Exactly. Jeff himself would probably have to step in as number 18. But Jeremiah got into some sort of scuffle with an automobile, and apparently Venus Vafa from season 46 was around. Now, to be clear, she was not behind the wheel. At least Jeremiah did not typify it as such. Venus likes to throw people under the bus. She does not hit people with cars, okay?
But Venus was at the hospital, or Venus was with him?
I believe Venus was at the airport. Like, he locked eyes with Venus.
And at the airport, he got hit by a car?
Yes.
And he saw Venus, like, is that Venus? And then got hit by a car.
Now, that could be the case as well. It could have been that Venus's fault, not directly, but because he was so starstruck.
And then he had to go to the hospital.
And then, but then he was right as rain, came here, ready to play. I mean, listen, people talk about getting second chances on the island. He's got a second lease on life immediately.
Yeah. Okay. Look, and he takes the licking, keeps on ticking, right?
He knows his way around blind sides.
Yeah. Okay. Who did Jeremiah feel like that he was vibing with?
So this one was probably the least clear to me. Again, he was negative on the bros. Positives, he did say he was positive on Christina. Those identifiers I got. He did say in my interview that, like, there's this shorter woman with shorter brown hair and beautiful eyes who's, like, my best friend. They just don't know it yet. And I'm having trouble figuring out if that was, okay, is that Sophie? Is that or either Sophie, honestly? Is that Shannon? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, Jeremiah in general is someone who says that he vibes with a lot of the female underdogs in when watching a Survivor season. So I do think he would be somebody to bond with the women over the men anyway. So it honestly might be all of them instead of just picking out one.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah, so I think that Jeremiah's going to have a great story. I mean, Jeremiah, in both his bio and my interview with him, talks about associating the most with Ty. And that does make a lot of sense to me. And that maybe, like, Jake's temperament is more like Ty in terms of just Ty being this natural nurturing persona. But again, Ty was so unsuspecting. He was just this, like, friendly Vietnamese gardener in his 50s. And you didn't know what he could do with a pair of pruning shears in the end. And I feel like if Jeremiah is able to take advantage of that, again, if he's able to present this very bubbly persona, but then underneath that allows you to sort of like let him in, and then he'll be able to take advantage of that and be able to, you know, get some finances for himself to manage at the end of the day. All the power to him. I think he still might be in a bit of trouble in the pre-merge, especially if this is a tribe that loses often, because you know, Jake is someone who says in his interview in particular that he's like, you know, I asked this year, I asked if you are on a disaster tribe, what would that be like? And Jake outright says, like, I don't want to work with any of the weak people. Like that would just that would go against what I'm trying to do. And so I would just want to call out all the least physical people. I do think Jeremiah is probably one of the least physical people on this tribe. And so despite how close him and Jake might be bonded, that might make them ops again early on.
Okay. We'll talk about it when we look at the tribe as a whole. Next up, Mike, Nicole.
Nicole, a name you know all too well.
Well, I have to say that Nicole's another person that I really felt like I resonated a lot with. Nicole is from Long Island, Italian.
Yep.
A name I know well.
Now, did you, Rob, when you moved to North Carolina, did you also start a bagel store like her parents did?
No, I have not started a bagel store. I love a good bagel.
And that was the reason why her parents started one, is that her story is that she grew up in Long Island, as you mentioned. When she was about to start high school, she moved to kind of like Bumble F, Ohio,
yeah, Ohio.
As she implied. And so
I moved when I started high school also.
Yeah. There you go. But her parents missed bagels so much. There was
Sounds like Nicole eventually ended up fitting in, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Don't sell yourself short, Rob. Come on. But her family found a hole in their heart, and it was the hole at the center of a bagel. And so they opened up their own shop here. And
they did it in Ohio?
In Ohio, yeah, they opened up their own bagels. They even, apparently in her bio, Rob, she says they imported water in from New York, because that's what they say, right? That's what makes the pizza so good, the bagels so good from New York is like.
I would think Ohio would still have the good water. I feel like that once you get to the West Coast, the water is no good. But
no, I mean, I think that like there's just something unique about that New York water. You know, we go from trashy Annie to trashy water, but by God, we love that trashy water. So Nicole is currently living in Philadelphia, but as you mentioned, she is initially from Long Island. She is 26 years old, turned 26 on the day that I was interviewing her. And she is a financial crime consultant. So she's largely responsible for looking into cases of money laundering and fraud. We'll see how much laundering she'll be doing with the clothes that she'll be stuck in for 26 days.
Okay. Yeah. So Nicole, I think is going to be an interesting player to watch. It seems like somebody who makes the social connections easily, but also is like a tough customer when it comes to dealing with like going through all these financial issues.
Yeah, I mean, Nicole is someone who, I mean, she describes herself as the love child of Boston Rob and Shambo. Which
two people I know well.
Yes, exactly, Rob. People you've become intimately familiar with as of late.
I gotta be honest, I don't know if there is anybody who is more well versed, maybe Russell Hance, perhaps. But I'm on like the short list of people well versed in both of those two people.
Make that your LinkedIn bio. You can only get the badge in Shambo expertise. Very unique, Rob.
Yeah.
Very unique, including Unique's association here, because I do think that Nicole obviously very much vibes.
How many people have talked to both of those humans in the year 2025?
Definitely not in the year 2025. I would say like Jeff Probst had a 2-season period where he talked to Shambo
Sure.
and Boston Rob back to back.
How many people are talking to them in 2025?
That's a fantastic question. Maybe Nicole might. Maybe she's brought Shambo out of the woodwork. We have to do a follow-up podcast, Rob, with Shambo to get her thoughts on Nicole on the season, how her child is doing. Because I do think that Nicole is another person that mentions Jam, and I do think she could really utilize
him also.
Yeah, again, you're racking up all of her proverbial parents here, Mamma Mia style, and her family would say Mamma Mia a lot. Because she has this. I think she would be the most likely in this cast to sort of embody that Jam persona, right? Of like she can crack a lot of jokes, and I think be able to get away with stuff. Like she has a very great sense of humor about her, but her energy is also kind of like laid back at the same time. Maybe part of that comes from the fact that, as she mentions in my interview, she grew up with hearing loss. And so it's caused her to have to kind of lean back a bit more, be more observational, clock body language. She says, Rob, that she wants to be in, the corner seat at tribal council, just on a perch as live tribal council happens, because she could clock each and everything people are doing as the havoc unfurls around her.
Yeah. That's interesting, and an interesting distinction, I think, because, the laid back to me isn't necessarily Jam, where I think he is. I would classify him more as the classic social butterfly that will fly to every flower that's out there, as opposed to somebody who's more laid back and observing.
Well, I think what's also interesting about Nicole, and this is where the BR part comes out of her DNA, is that like she does kind of have this "don't F with me" attitude. I mean, she is very opinionated, Rob. She says that if any of these honesty and loyalty players get to the end and profess their game upon that, she would not vote for them as a juror. Again, she was doing a lot of forecasting for Survivor 48 without realizing it. As I called out to her in the interview, right? Like she essentially paraphrased Camilla's exact confessional that happened in that episode. Like I just watched the Chrissy Boot episode before flying out for 49, where Camilla had that confessional of like, if they wanted to, reach the end together as a team, they should have gone to the Olympics. And Nicole basically says the same thing. So I think that's another good comparison as well. Is like, I think she does have a bit of this Camillinator vibe to her. And that I do think she could be someone who is very unsuspected as just kind of like this, laid back comic persona, but could have some gamey vibes to her.
Okay. Who was Nicole feeling good about?
She was very positive on Christina, as were a lot of people. And she was negative on Matt. It was more so from this idea of like, Matt has this vibe that I think
and we haven't talked about them yet, right?
No, that's in another tribe. Could be a merge situation. But she basically felt like this could maybe clue something in, is that Nicole feels like for Matt, like, I get the sense from him that everyone wants to get along with him, and that's considered a threat to me. Maybe that's more of a perspective as to who Nicole might target on her own tribe, is thinking about, okay, who could be sort of like my likability threats and gun for them specifically. I could see her doing that. We'll talk about laying this tribe out. Like, I would honestly not be surprised if we see a Jake versus Nicole going into whatever first tribal council this tribe attends.
Yeah, I certainly could see that.
Yeah, just because I think that these two, I think, have very different approaches to the game. Not to say that like they couldn't get along swimmingly, but I think they just have very different focuses. And considering that, I'm sure Nicole probably is no slouch in the challenges. I'm sure she's prepared well, but Jake might perceive her as someone who's weaker physically. Nicole would perceive Jake as someone who would play a game that she would not necessarily want to vote for in the end. And this is what Survivor is in a nutshell, right? These are two people from demonstrably different walks of life taking two demonstrably different approaches to the game. And sometimes it's like oil and water or blood and water.
Okay. Mike, anything else about Nicole?
No, I really enjoyed getting to talk with her. Again, I do think that she can get in good with people initially by just getting on the same page as them, having discussions with them, getting to know them, and shooting the shit a little bit. And we'll see if she loves to say the word "totally" in my interviews.
Totally.
Rob. She
Yes.
could
Yes.
totally
I,
take
I
over
did
this
clock
game.
that before it got mentioned in the interview, but yeah,
And you
totally.
listen, yeah, we love a self-observational
Total.
queen, right?
Yeah.
Of like, okay, yeah, I clocked the word that I was using all the time. So we shall see if she is the total package.
Yeah. Nobody likes the cereal total.
Yeah, does that still around? Do
They
millennials
still
cancel
make that?
total? I feel
I
like I
think
haven't seen a
so.
I feel like I haven't seen
Let
a
us know
commercial
in
for
the
total.
comments if anybody likes the cereal total.
I will say I also I watch a lot of broadcast television for very understandable reasons. I don't think I've seen like a cereal commercial in
Hmm.
years outside of like maybe Cheerios.
Maybe they're marketing it really to the kids. There used to be a lot of cereal commercials on like daytime TV for
Hmm.
the tricks and the Lucky Charms and all that stuff. But I don't know, maybe Big Cereal is getting out of the TV advertising. Maybe they're just all on social
Yeah, exactly. They're
TikTok
taking over. Yeah, they're all making TikTok trends.
influencers.
The
Yeah.
Tricks Rabbit is standing on a box of tricks on one foot as the camera revolves around them. That's what Tricks is doing nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. All
We'll
right.
see how many tricks Nicole will turn this season.
Whoa.
All
Okay.
right. Last but not least, Rob, let's talk about one of the Sophies here, Sophie Balerdi.
Okay.
Sophie is 27 years old, currently lives in Miami, originally from Miami, though her parents immigrated from Cuba and Venezuela, and she is an entrepreneur.
An
She owns
entrepreneur, a
yeah, she
savvy businesswoman. And this is like, I think, a very interesting profile to have here on Survivor. And she's a young person. How old is she?
27.
27. She's a business owner, and her dream is to own a McDonald's franchise. And people who scoff at that, she says, it costs like $2 million to own
Yeah.
McDonald's
So she's
franchise. And
so she's halfway there. She can buy the Mick. She has to come back and win again to get the Donald's.
yeah, and very enterprising. She has her own business that works in iPhone repair, and
Hmm?
people be breaking those iPhones.
Exactly. So I think she's gonna be staying in business. Maybe not on the beach. I don't think I don't think
My wife beats the hell out of her iPhone. What does she care?
exactly. I don't think coconut.
I have to fix it. I'm the one. It's my problem if she breaks it.
Well, listen, Sophie went to Duke. If she opens up a North Carolina branch, she's got you covered there. I wonder if she can
Yeah.
open could she open like a coconut phone repair station
Yeah.
on the island? Do you think that'll help people?
Coconut repair.
Coconut phone repair.
Coconut phone repair. I don't know.
But yeah, Sophie is somebody who, despite being, I think, her and Nicole are, I think, well, it's interesting sort of division of ages as well, and that like her, Nicole, Alex, sort of around the same age range. But again,
Mhm.
Sophie went to Duke, has an MBA. She obviously is not going to disclose any of this background, but again, she is a go-getter, as
Yeah.
you mentioned, and obviously the comparison has been drawn, is currently drawn by Sophie herself, and I imagine I'm intrigued to get your opinion about this, Rob. Will be drawn about her 2D, considering how many things they have in common.
Sure, but I think that the thing is that it would be most intimidating to the other survivors about D is that, oh, okay, well, she really did a number on Austin. And I think that if that's not happening, then I don't think that you would be as suspicious. Like, okay, we don't have to get rid of Sophie because she is a businesswoman from Florida.
It's an interesting question as to if you did the Family Feud, what are the top 5 things you remember about D Valladares as to where the showmance ranks up? Because
Big toe.
exactly. Oh yeah. And listen, if you're Johnny Bananas, I think that would be number 1 through 5, specifically applying to the toes on her feet. But I do think that for D, yeah, people do specifically connotate it to one relationship. Other not just talking about the fact that no, she was so freaking well connected with everybody, let alone one particular alliance that steamrolled the game. Because I think this is sort of a playbook that if Sophie doesn't get clocked about it, she could kind of run it back. She has a very similar ruthless way that she is approaching the game, where she's like, I want to cut throats. I want to blindside. She says in her bio that she wants to play as a combination of Cerie and Genevieve, which is to have this sort of ruthless, take charge, take no prisoners type of attitude, but also have the social connections to help that as well. And honestly, I could see a world where she is able to make that happen because
Yeah.
she is
With
one
all
of
due
the,
respect to Genevieve, like that, you could just be Suri.
that's also true as well. Yeah, that like Suri has definitely been the mastermind behind some absolutely
Maybe she's gonna
visceral
win more
blindside.
challenges, or
That's true, though. She did say in my interview that like she's not only on the smaller size, but she's like, when I found out I was going out here, I stopped going to the gym because she didn't want to tear anything. That's why they don't put starters in preseason games, Rob. She didn't want to risk injury.
yeah. But sometimes you need those reps.
Exactly. You need those reps. I don't know. Jeremiah took a rep and he almost got hit by a car. So you never know. Anything can
That's
happen
true.
on your way to Survivor. But Sophie,
Yeah.
I think, is someone, honestly, like, again, maybe it's just the D comparisons, but I was very high on D in our 45 preseason, feeling like she kind of was the total package in terms of smarts, her business savvy or her business sweat, and, just her sociability and natural relationships with people on top of the physical aspects. I think Sophie's less physical than D. That's not saying much, but like, this is someone who I think could also, if she makes it to the merge, make a really deep cut in this game. I don't know who would
She
be coming for her
knows
immediately.
the show particularly well. Also, she told the story about her grandmother who
Mhm.
said that Jeff Probst is the hottest guy ever.
I mean, if I would say
So hot.
if her grandmother was the editor of People, Jeff Probst would have been sexiest man alive on the cover perennially.
Yeah. Okay. So
I feel like Jeff was
that's
probably
nice.
in one of those issues at one point, right?
Well, somewhere along the way. Okay.
Yeah.
So, who did Sophie say that she was vibing with?
Okay, so Sophie said that she was very positive on the Hulk, which is Jake.
Okay.
Sophie very specifically is coming in with this meat shield strategy. She literally opens her video by saying, I am going to find the biggest guy or biggest
Yeah.
girl here and glom onto them like a remora to a shark. I do think as we get into the tribe overall, this is going to be one of the most natural connections. Jake wanted to work with people that are very close to their families. Sophie has a very personal story about a loved one around Survivor. Like, these are going to be two peas in a pod. And I think that's also going to help her as well. So I think she could immediately link up with Jake. She also was positive on Christina as well. Some of you have heard that one before. She did not really clock anyone negatively, I believe. She was more so like, yeah, you know what? So yeah, she literally clocked my interview being like, no one gives you any names, but I'm not going to give you any names. She says, I mean, she says, like, if Jake isn't on my tribe and I'm not working with him, he could be a problem that I'll get rid of down the line. But at least from what I recall, there were not like any specifics applying to this particular group.
Mike, let's start to take a look at this tribe and see what we can figure out. And I think it's a great place to pick things up to start with. Okay. I was going to bring it up. You mentioned, okay, here is Sophie. And Sophie had the strategy of she wants to be the fish that has the symbiotic relationship with the big whale.
Yes, there we go. But will it earn her a fishy in the process? We shall see. But yeah, I could easily see this becoming a twosome immediately. I think that, again, Sophie will immediately be seeking Jake out specifically. I think that, again, Jake will be sort of the center of this hub, Fiji style, just from a social perspective and a positional perception perspective. And I think that he'll be like, oh, I really connect with Sophie on her story. Yeah, I'll be happy to work with anybody.
Okay. So I feel like that this is a pretty good duo here.
And I think let's make it a third, shall we? 3 tickets for challengers. Let's bring Alex in as well.
Okay. Now, we know that, okay, Alex was, winking and smiling here with Jake. Is there any connective tissue with him and Sophie?
Not from what I remember. But I think, they will get along totally fine. I also think that, again, like, you have sort of more 3 offbeat personas compared to these 3 people that I think, as much as Alex talks about getting along with all sort of different types of cliques, I could see them gelling together as just like an initial 3. And as Jake talks about, all you need is 4 to rule over a 6-person tribe. And so the question is, would they grab a 4 and would that leave the other 2 people out?
Okay, well, yeah, who would be the likely 4th member of this? We could talk through the candidates. First, here's Nicole.
I think Nicole is someone that could get in well socially. I could see a situation where like these 3 are getting together and they're like, who are we bringing in as 4th? It's like, I really like Nicole. Nicole would be really someone that's really fun to have around. I think that would be the argument for Nicole, is if, again, she really endears herself personally to the tribe early on, as I'm expecting her to do. That could be an easy case to just get her in on pure likability.
Who do you think would be Sophie's person here? Because I can't feel like that Sophie is going to want to just link up with, if we think that maybe the guys might be a little bit closer. I can't imagine that she's jumping into this without having like her person also in the 4.
Could be Jeremiah. Jeremiah, again, has talked a lot about the types of characters that he likes in Survivor. I think Sophie, as, again, a smaller woman, is a great example of the types of people that Jeremiah likes to see. And so I could see them getting along as well. If we move on to the, case for Jeremiah to become the 4th, if we talk about that Canadian connection, that's an easy in. And again, if he has a relatability yeah, he has an ing. And then if he has, relatability to Sophie, and he, again, could be someone whose positivity endears himself. The case for Annie, I think, would be if she immediately proves herself as an asset from a camp perspective. If it's like, look at all the stuff that Annie's doing. We can't get rid of her anytime soon. Look at what she's getting done. She's clearly someone that is here to help the tribe. Again, Jake is someone in particular that is very much trying to push that motto. So honestly, there could be a case for all 3 to be made here. If I could pick one, it might be Annie. Do
you think Annie could be the 4th?
I think Annie could be the 4th. Annie or maybe Nicole. It depends on how strong that Canadian connection is.
Could we maybe also look at an alternative version of how this tribe gets formed? Because I think that
alternates this season. Let's go alternative.
Yeah, let's just
even though Rocky is more rock, not alternative.
Okay. Let's just build a different version of this tribe where, let's say, Nicole is the person who comes in and really, it kind of say last season, hits the ground running and gets to the beach and says, I'm building this group in my likeness.
And I could see I think Nicole, going back to her a bit as well, I think she has a bit of Carla upside too. I do think she could possess that sort of social power to be able to weaponize into close strategic bonds too.
Okay. So what does the Nicole version of this tribe look like?
I think Nicole would want to probably bring in Jeremiah.
Okay.
I think that the 2 of them would work really closely together. I could see her wanting to get a women's alliance going too. I'm trying to remember from her bio if she does say her pet peeve is the West Coast, but I don't think we have any Californians in this particular group, luckily for them. So I could see Sophie in there. I could see Annie in there as well. Not to say that Nicole, honestly, I could see this foursome. I could see Nicole, Sophie, Annie, and Jeremiah.
Especially if there's some talk about, you see Jake and Alex.
Yes.
Oh, they're broing out. And I think I could see the worst case scenario for Alex being well, we need Jake to win the challenges, and the guys are getting too close, so let's vote out
Alex.
Smiley Alex.
Exactly, the medium threat in a manner of speaking, which is wild because, again, I think you and I pegged Alex for doing well generally. But yeah, if he's in a bad situation here where it's well, you're a threat, but the second biggest threat, then that could lead him to get, cut out quite early in the campaigning process.
Yeah, because I could really see the version where Nicole comes in and really just starts to put the pedal to the metal very early on of hey, I'm not going to be on the outs. I am going to, build my 4 before, the other 4 gets built without me.
She turns 26 within those first few days, right? They say your brain matures at that point. And she's like, all right, time for me to put together a Machiavellian style game here. And yeah, maybe it could be a matter of her feeling I want to get something together before any sort of majority coalesces around, Jake and Alex, like we were talking about in our previous version. So again, Rob, it comes back to this fact that I think we're kind of looking at two universes where either it is an alliance where Jake is at the center or an alliance where Nicole is at the center.
And I will say that then the one common denominator in both of these universes that we've built for this tribe is Sophie is the one who is in both of these groups. So I feel like it's big for fantasy draft time. I think that Sophie is our person here who
Like
I think
spot.
I think she has a high floor and also a high ceiling.
Yeah, I do think that if we are to pick winner contenders or endgame contenders out of this group, I think Sophie would be my number one, as she'll probably have a bunch of number ones. Now, look, I could very easily see a universe where she gets too bloodthirsty. Talk about the Remora and the shark, and decides like she's betraying way too many people, and then becomes the big threat as a result and gets cut. But I think she is someone that can be a bit unsuspecting, especially if she links up with specific other people at the merge. Is someone who can make it at least pretty far. And then I would put Alex number 2. I do think that like Nicole or Jeremiah could be in an interesting spot if they made it to the merge. Again, I could see a situation where one, if not both of them, goes in the pre-merge, but like, arguably that's the most difficult stage for them because all eyes would be on them, assumingly, as people that are not as explicitly physical as others. That like once they get to the merge, then they can just sort of be their natural, funny, charming, social selves and not need to worry about like, well, how'd you do in the swimming? We got to get rid of you, So like I could see a version of any of those doing pretty well. I could see Annie. Again, Annie is not Sue, but I could see a situation, especially if she's not if she's more so sitting back, not playing the CEO role and making decisions where like she gets brought in as a number if she makes the merge of like, well, everybody likes Annie. She'll go along to get along. Let's, have her join our band. And again, Jake, I think is someone who's probably the most safe to make the merge. But I think of these 6 would honestly be in the most trouble once the merge hits due to both the way he stands out and his story.
Okay. Anything else you want to say here about the Kela tribe?
No, I mean, I think we've looked at a couple of possibilities. I do think, as you mentioned, with Uli, I think it was a little tougher to pin down like who is going to be working with who. I think due to the fact that a lot of these people were mentioning each other in my interviews, this is something where we can sketch out a bit more of a dynamic. I mean, listen, it can all get eroded away like, the wave washing upon the shore. But I think here we're able to at least eyeball a bit more what the starting dynamics might be.
Okay. All right. Mike, we got one more tribe to talk about, one more group of cutouts for me to make, and we will do that. We get together in about a week.
Yes, we'll give some cut-ups about some cutouts, as we'll be talking about last, but certainly not least, the Hina tribe. So starting tomorrow, you'll hear my interview with Jason, and then the oft-mentioned Christina, then Matt, then MC, then Sophie S., and last but certainly not least with Steven. And then you and I will get together 1 week from today, Rob, to break down this third tribe.
Yeah, just a little check-in here. So what are we, 3 weeks now? So this podcast is going to be live Wednesday. And so we will be just 3 weeks from the Survivor 49 premiere. Can you believe it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's this weird thing where August feels like a different state of mind, where it feels like, oh, Survivor's all months away at this point. And then all of a sudden you wake up and it's a new month. And, we passed Labor Day, but it's an absolute labor of love, Rob, to get the chance to bring these interviews to you all and get the chance to talk about all of them with you. So thank you, as always. Thank you to everybody who's been checking all this stuff out. We've got one more to go. It's a very interesting group to get into as well. This is the tribe that contains our 2 alternates. So these are going to be very unique interviews because at the time I was speaking with them, they were under the impression that they would not be in this season. And so to sort of get their mentality in that moment, I think is a very particularly intriguing headspace for them to be in. So I'm excited to see how they're going to be pieced together in this tribe, considering that they were last minute additions. Again, 12 hours before the season started, they got thrown in like Jeremiah in front of that car.
Mike, I don't know if you can answer this. When you're talking to somebody, do you know that they're an alternate?
Yes.
Okay.
They know they're an alternate as well.
do you find yourself, because I know that you're such a giving interviewer and like you're such an empath. Do you find yourself like trying to like talk them up of like, hey, do you know how many alternates I've talked to that they get on the show eventually?
Yeah, I mean, what I will say without saying too much is, I during Survivor 46, I spoke with both Rachel and Shaheen. Shaheen in particular was really down. Just to time things out, they had just taken the cast photo, which is when the cast is made aware as to who is an alternate.
And
who
now we
isn't.
know Shaheen has big feelings about things.
And that's the thing is that, he felt in an incredibly vulnerable place. And, I am incredibly grateful for his openness there. And that if I was able to serve as any sort of like emotional,
Mhm.
point to grab onto, I'm incredibly thankful for that opportunity. But yeah, certainly in our chats, I was definitely like, listen, this is not going to be the end. Obviously, at that point, I did not know the stats as to all these people that were going to be, brought back in a larger capacity. We'll get into this next time, Rob, probably looking at the stats as to like the new era when it comes to alternates. And I spoke with Jeff about this. This is very purposeful on his part to be like, if you make it that far in the casting process, like we want to pay you for that, both monetarily and also in giving your spot in on a future season. So listen, for the alternates that exist out there, now more than ever, you can get your second shots and look no further
Mhm.
than what especially Rachel was able to do but one season later. But for these two, they got their second chance right there, right then. And so I think we'll get a lot into what that shock might mean to their system early on and how that might vibe with the rest of Hina too.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, great job here today. We've got our next and final preview coming up in about 6 days from now, or 7, I guess, 6 more previews, and then we'll get back together for that. What else are you doing for Survivor 49 preseason?
Well, I'm just putting out interviews on the written side as well. If you want to get an early scope as to what Hina is all about before you experience them in written and audio form, or sorry, in video and audio form, they are up in written form over at parade.com. I'm also bringing a little bit tidbits. I did an interview with Jeff where I've sort of sprinkled some stuff. We'll certainly get into the alternate situation next time, which he opened up about. He talked about how the 249 players made their way onto season 50 and how that affected this 24-person cast as well. So I'll be sprinkling stuff in throughout the preseason. Like I mentioned with Dalton, maybe some of the more of these compilation pieces of everyone sort of answering the same question. On top of all the other great stuff I'm doing with Big Brother Exit Press, with covering Australia versus the world, which is barreling towards its endgame. Only one episode left of that. The Reality Flash, at the time this is coming out, we should be getting a Dancing with the Stars cast at some point today. So I will be on with Matt and Sasha to break down who is what and where and probably why in terms of those casting choices. And you can follow everything I'm doing at A Mike Bloom Type.
All right. Thank you so much for checking this out. We still have our draft to do and It's a Look and everything else that we have going on in the Survivor 49 preseason. So make sure you're subscribed for all of that. I love to read your comments as well about all of these podcasts. So be sure to check that out. Also, Wednesday, I'll be recapping week 3 of Australian Survivor versus the World with the aforementioned Shannon Gus right here on RHAP. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye. This is RHAP. We know reality TV.